Hello, everybody. Let me see here because looks like I having problems with the Facebook. Only for Kardec. Let me see. Let's check Watanabe. Uh,
Any problems, Stefan?
yeah, I having. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, I'm fixing 1 second. I'm fixing this. Perfect. Okay, we are not live on Facebook,
Mhm.
but now we are live on Facebook. Great. So, hello everybody. Good to have you all here. Apologies for our technical issues, but this is just to prove to you we are live. This is a live, you know. So, thank you very much for your time. Again, we have our friend Roberto Watanabe from FESP. He's the president of FESP. And this partnership with the Irish Spiritist Federation. He's collaborating with us about almost 3 years on a monthly basis, giving us his perspective from some important topics from the Spiritism. And last month, he started to talk about the moral laws in the Spirit's book. He split this in two parts. And today it is the part number 2. So, Tanabe, welcome, my friend. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Stefan. Very glad to be here with you all again.
Yes, also I want to say good evening, good afternoon to Antonio Lima, Marco Antonio, Paty Oliveira, Teresa Antas, Maria Santos, e Lu VM. So, thank you, my friends, to be here with us. And in order to start, allow me to. And by the way, we are live on the FASP YouTube page as well. So do not forget to say it. And before we started, I hand over to Roberto. Let me do the initial prayer. So I'd like to invite everyone to raise up your thoughts. They could make connections with superior spirits, with our mentors of the show, mentors of Kardec Radio, because allowing us to spread the spiritism in English uh, and make this a tool to show everyone where we can reach, how we can reach. Same time, we ask the good spirits to support those brothers and sisters who couldn't make today and support them according to their needs and their merits. Amen. Okay, so Roberto, let me put it here the presentation.
Okay?
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, off you go, my friend.
Okay. Thank you,
Reconnect.
Stefan. Thank you. Well, today we are going to see the second part of the moral laws. Actually, I divided it in three parts. We saw six laws at once last month, and today we are going to see only two because they're a little bit more complicated laws, more complex laws, which is the law of progress and the law of freedom. And the next month we will finish the moral laws by seeing the law of equality and the law of justice, love, and charity. So let's start by the law of progress. Kardec says in the Spirit's book uh, regarding the march of progress of the humanity in the world, that humans, we advance naturally by ourselves because God has created us that way, right? So we read in the spiritual book that God created all of us simple and ignorant, and then we must advance it through our own effort to reach perfection. So uh, if we were created that way, then we advance naturally, as the spirits say here to Kardec, to Allan Kardec. But what they also say that not all progress, not all of us progress at the same time or in the same manner, because we are all different from each other. So, and then that explains why we have some most advanced than others, right? So, and then what they say is that the most advanced helps the others through a social contact regarding the law of a society that we saw last month, right? So, by living in society, we have many, uh, all, all of us, we are in many different stages of evolution, so that those that are more evolved help the others which are less evolved. And we evolve in two ways, in the intellectual side and also on the moral side. We progress in both ways. But normally, the intellectual progress comes before moral progress. Intellectual progress means developing our reason, our intelligence, knowledge, science, philosophy, and so on and so forth, right? And moral progress is related to our free will regarding the choice between good and evil. So normally we progress first in the intellectual side, and then after that in the moral side. So that's what happening today with us in our earth, because we have evolved a lot in the intellectual dimension, but not that much in the moral dimension, right? That's why evil still is predominant in our earth. So, but in any way, the intellectual progress lead at the end of the day lead to the second to the moral progress, and by making good and evil understandable, because to choose between good and evil, we must understand what is good and what is evil. And then we saw that right on first chapter of the book 3 of the Spirit book. There, Kardec explains that good is everything that get close to God, and evil is everything that deviate or get far from God. So to have that conscience, we must understand, right? And even if we understand, we can use our intelligence or our intellectual progress to do evil. For example, and in our civil, civilization today, we use, for example, our intelligence to make war, for example, right? So something that is happening now in the world. So that's something to do evil. But in the far future, morality and intelligence will achieve balance. We will achieve a point where we will be as advanced in intellectual side as in the moral side, right? So that's the march of progress that the Spirit is commenting here on the Spirit's book. And we as humankind, we cannot stop the march of progress, because it's a law of nature. It's a law from God, but we can slow it down. So, but in that case, when a culture, the spirits say, does not advance quickly enough, then God causes a physical or moral jolt, right? That transforms it. We can think about the French Revolution, for example, at the end of the 18th century, right? That was a kind of um, moral jolt, right? So that transformed our civilization, the West civilization. And moral revolutions, like social revolutions, creep into people's ideas little by little. So we can read in the books of history books that the French Revolution was. Before that, we have for example, the philosophy of enlightenment from philosophers like Voltaire, Rousseau, Montesquieu, who launched the new ideas, right, of freedom, of equality, of fraternity, and that was these ideas were growing into the people's mind, and then we had the revolution. And what they say is that such upheavals are like the storms and disturbances that leave the atmosphere cleansed after having disrupted it. We can see that after that stress, big stress that was the revolution, then after that we have the condition to transform the society, right? To to change all the social structure. And that's one example, right, of this march for progress. So that we cannot halt, right? We cannot stop the march for progress. And what about the relapsed cultures? Um, the Spiritist tells to Kardec, right, that the history has shown us many cultures that relapsed into barbarity after shocking events. After shocking events deeply upset them. So we can think, for example, about the Greek culture, right? The ancient Greek culture from the sixth to the fourth century before Christ. And in the Greek culture of the sixth century was, or fifth century was a very advanced culture. But after that, when the Romans, for example, conquered Greece, and that culture was not there anymore, right? So what the spirit explains is that the spirits that were incarnated in 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 the sixth and fifth century uh, were not anymore when such culture were declining. So that's why they explain that the spirits incarnated in those declining cultures were not longer the spirit who were during their time of splendor on the sixth or and the fifth century. Right? Sixth and fifth century was the time of Socrates, for example, the big philosopher, the Pericles, the great commander of Athens. And these former spirits have moved into even more perfect dwellings. So uh, it means that those spirits probably went to higher worlds, a more advanced world than Earth, right? And less advanced spirits have taken their place. But these spirits that took their place also will leave, the spirits say, and will leave that place behind in their turn when they have developed enough, right? So that's what the explanation. Why, for example, we have those uh, splendor, right? Cultures of Greece, the ancient Greece, Egypt, China, and so on and so forth. And because cultures, like individuals, have a kind of life cycle. Right? They pass through childhood, adulthood, and decrepitude, and that happens to cultures only that only live a material existence. Because if a culture lives such material existence, those are cultures with the selfish laws. And such a culture dies out, the spirit say, because light annihilates darkness, and charity eradicates selfishness. But cultures that have laws in harmony with the divine law will not die, right? Will live and will be guiding lights for all the other cultures. In some way, we can again think about the ancient Greek culture, right? Because the democracy that they developed, the philosophy that they developed, the art, and well, all of that is have an impact, a favorable impact on civilization until now, right? So that because that those were cultures that have laws in harmony with the divine law. Um, then, what is civilization, right? Or what happened with civilization? Civilization, the spirit say, also goes through stages of development. Uh, an incomplete civilization is a state of a transition which engenders special evils unknown in the primitive state. What the spirit is saying here is they are saying that, for example, when you have a primitive state, right? When we have a civilization which is very have a very low knowledge, for example. And then you have the first great civilizations, like, for example, in the 2000 before Christ, right? So those civilizations were incomplete civilization because they engendered special evils unknown in the primitive state. What the spirit means by special evils? They are saying here about passions, right? Passions that we have in those incomplete civilization, and passions that we have until now, right? In our uh, current civilization. Passion of selfishness, for example, of ambition, of greed. So all this kind of pride. So all these kind of passions um, indicates that the civilization is still incomplete, and even if such civilization has evolved in the intellectual side, right, like our civilization. That's why the spirits say that the great discoveries and wonderful inventions like we have now do not mean that we are very advanced. So because very advanced in the moral side, right? We our current civilization is very advanced in the intellectual, but not in the moral dimension. But the civilizations perfect it themselves, right? As evils will eventually disappear with the moral progress. So that's what will be happening here on Earth. Right? When we as humanity we progress on the moral side, then our civilization will perfect ourselves, right? Itself. And humankind, the spirits say, progressed by means of individuals who increasingly improve and enlighten themselves. So those are the kind of leaders that we have in the religious, political, scientific, philosophical, and art, and all the fields of a culture, right? So when such individuals grow in number, then they take the lead and draw the rest forward. So the spirits mentioned the geniuses and individuals invested with authority, and that appear to enable humankind to advance many centuries in just a few years. For example, if we think about the well, today we are. I'm taking the example of the ancient Greek culture, right? So, if we think about in the sixth century before Christ in Greece, we have the genius of Solon. Right? Solon was the first uh, Greek person, leader, commander which give laws to Athens, right? So that was a great advancement to have laws, and that makes the civilization advance many centuries in just few years, like the spirits say here, right? And then, but in the end, when the law of God comprises the basis of human law everywhere, then we will live joyfully and peacefully. So means that when our human law, like currently real human laws, is let's say in accord with the God's law, then we on earth will live joyfully and peacefully, because then we will have no more wars, for example, right? No more conflicts. We will live in a fraternal relationship. And then Spiritism itself has an influence on progress. And because what the Spiritists say is that Spiritism will become a common belief in the future, right? Well, still in the far future from now, but will become a common belief and will mark a new era in the history of humankind. What the Spiritists means by saying that Spiritism will become a common belief? Um, it means that humankind will accept, for example, reincarnation as a normal thing, right? Something that is not now today, and humankind will accept the idea of a God, the idea of we living in two worlds, right? Spiritual and physical world, and have this relationship between the two worlds. So all of that will be a common belief in the future. And but until we get there, we as humankind will face great struggles, because there are persons who are not interested on that, right? Uh, Persons that have their interest. Well, this is a kind of a threat, the situation to them. So they will fight against such situation, and because they have purely material motives, like the spirits say here. And so that's because the great contribution of Spiritism to progress is the destruction of the materialism. So this is something that Kardec usually to say, right? That the Spiritism well came to fight against materialism, because in a materialistic society, moral for the morality is something that have, have very little value, right? So in that in a materialistic society we have a selfishness, right? So and that's why the spirits say that materialism is one of the source of society. And then spiritism coming and unveiling the future, the idea of a future life, and men and women we understand that they can ensure their future based on the present. So when we have this idea that everything that we do today we have a consequence in our future, our future, I mean before this life, then we will think differently about our lives, right? So that's what is being said here. And so in that way, Spiritism destroys the prejudices of sect, caste, and color, every kind of a prejudice, right? And discrimination. And the Spiritism teaches us about solidarity, that we must live among themselves, right? So unite, living as brothers and sisters, like they say. So that's the Spiritism influence and progress. So now that let's talk a little bit about the law of freedom. Let's start by natural freedom. So um, the Spiritist book starts by saying that there is no position in the world where we can boast of having absolute freedom, right? None of us have absolute freedom, because we live in society and we need each other, right? So uh, that's why they say, because all of us, the least as well as the greatest, need one another. So as soon as we join together, we live in society, we have the right to respect. So that's a limit to our freedom, right? And and therefore we no longer have absolute freedom. But there is a kind of a natural freedom. There is a kind of a freedom that we have, which is the freedom of thought. So that's something that nobody uh, uh, can deny us of having that, right? So uh, because such a kind of a freedom is something that escapes of all embarrassment. That's why we enjoy of absolute freedom regarding the freedom of thought. And it is through thought that we enjoy unlimited freedom, because thought having no obstacles, the spirit is saying, right? So because nobody can control what we think, right? And the manifestation of what we think may be hindered, the spirit is saying, but it cannot be erased. I can have some uh, thought in my mind, and I, well, the manifestation of that thought may be hindered, but nobody can erase that thought from my mind. So that's what's being said here. But by the other hand, the thought that we have, we are accountable for that, right? Um, uh, Regarding God, because depending on the kind of a thought that we have, that if we manifest such thought, it may have a consequence, good or bad, right? So depending on the consequence that thought have, then we have the responsibility for that, and so that's why the spirits say that only God can know our thoughts, and they only Him can condemn or absolve us according to the divine justice. So it means at the end of the day that our thought would ideally we always related to good, right, and not to evil. But we have the freedom of thought, and from the freedom of thought, if we have that, we also have the freedom of conscience. So it's a consequence of the freedom of thought, the freedom of conscience. And what is conscience in here? Conscience is an inner thought that belongs to man, as do all other thoughts. Freedom of conscience, for example, one example of a freedom of conscience is the freedom that we all have to follow a belief, a religion, right? So, or not to follow any religion at all. So, that's a freedom that we have, right? So, and the freedom of conscience, and nobody has the right to set up barriers to such a freedom of conscience. So nobody could set barriers uh, to us if we decided to choose this or that religion, or choose to have not no religion at all. Right? So freedom of conscience is one of the characteristics of true civilization and progress. So because such kind of a liberty is a sign of advancement of the civilization. If you think about a civilization that forbids, for example, person to choose their belief, their religion, that would not be a civilization, advanced civilization. So that's what is being said here. And from such a freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, we also we have a free will. Huh? We act with the free will, and we choose what we want to think, to say, or to do. Huh? So, uh, because since we have the freedom of thought, then we have the freedom of action, and that's very important, because without free will, um, we as human beings would be like machines, and then there would be no morality for us if we didn't have any free will. Right? So free will is strictly connected to morality. Only a person who has only a being who has free will uh, can be a moral being. Right? That's why we say that the animals, for example, the irrational animals, um, they have no moral in their world because they have no free will. They act by instinct only. And but we also have instinct, right? So the instinctive predisposition that we bring at birth can incite us to reprehensible acts, but that does not mean that such instinctive predisposition that we have incite us to necessarily act in such and such in this or that way, right? Because we always have the will to resist to such instinctive predisposition. So it means that free will is always with us. Our body also has some kind of influence on our actions in life, but that does not mean that our body determines our action, right? Because if that was the case, then we would not have free will also. So it means that we can be influenced by our body, by matter, but the instrument, our body, does not give any faculties to our spirit, right? To we as spirit. Uh, for example, if an individual have an instinct for murder, um, is not their body which is have such instinct, right? But it is their spirit, his her spirit that possesses such instinct, right? So that's what being explained here. And then Kardec give us interesting example here uh, when he explained that the distortion of the intellectual faculties because of drunkenness does not excuse a reprehensible act. So the situation here is the following. Suppose that a person drink, right, some alcohol, and then he get drunkard, and then he decided to drive, for example, a car, and then hits the person and kill the person, for example, right? Then someone could say, well, he was not conscious of what he was doing, right? Because he was a drunkard. And then the answer from the spirit is that in such case, the person commits two wrongs at the same time. Because first, he intentionally deprived himself by drinking, right? And then decided to drive and hit the person. So two wrongs in this case, right? So that's the situation here because that's to explain that we always have our free will. Right? Let's talk a little bit about fatalism. Um, is there fatalism in the event of life? Kardec asked the spirit, right? So they answered that there may be fatalism in the events of life in the sense that such events are predetermined. And for example, just a second, please. Excuse me. Um, Fatalism, in the sense, is also related to free will because, for example, if you think about a person, which is the situation here, right? The person seem to be pursued by bad luck. So no matter what the person does in his life, everything goes wrong. So and that in that situation, it seems that there is a kind of a fatalism in his or her life, right? But that's not the case. The spirit explains to Kardec, to Allan Kardec, because in such case, the spirit himself chose that situation before incarnating, chose as a trial. So that is what they explain here. So that's why they say that fatalism only exists when applied to the choice made by the spirits. So you see, the choice made by the spirits upon incarnating, and the spirits chose to undergo this or that trial. So that's the situation here. So in that case, there is no fatalism. It was a choice. Of free will was present, is present here, and also. And but that only for trials of a physical nature, because regarding moral trials and temptations, we always preserve our free will to resist. Right? So that's a very important thing. It means that, for example, that in this situation, we chose before incarnating that as a trial, that we would be in a situation that everything that we would do in our life would go wrong. So that is something that, as we chose that, it will happen in our life. But it's something of a physical nature, a material nature. But uh, regarding the moral nature, moral, in the moral, thinking about the moral side, we can, for example, it depends on the way that we react to such a situation. Right? We can react by being angry with that, or we can react by understanding what's happening here, right? So this is something that is always under our free will, uh, to resist, for example, to such situation by not being angry, right? So that's what's being explained here. So fatalism, at the end of the day, especially regarding moral trials, um, does not um, does not hinder our free will. And human, we also can, through our own will and efforts, avoid the events that were to occur. So, for example, we chose such situation, but then if we understand that we chose that situation, then we are we are not we are not going to do anything because, well, at the end of the day everything will go wrong. No, we always must try. Right? We must have our effort to overcome such a situation, because that again, that's because we have our free will always. And another way of prevent such a situation is doing good, right? Then by doing good, we can prevent such evil. So that the free will is always present in our life. That's the lesson here in this part. Now let's talk a little bit about foreknowledge of the future. Can we have a knowledge of the future, something that will happen with us in the future? And then this is, the answer of the spiritists is that generally future cannot be revealed to us, because if we knew the future, then, well, if it's something good is going to happen, and then I know that, and then I'm not going to do anything, right? Because, well, at the end of the day, everything will be good to me. And also, by the other side, if I know that something bad is going to happen to me, also I'm going to do anything, because no matter what I do, the final situation will be the same, right? Everything will go, something bad will happen to me. So in that case, we will not have any free will. So that's the problem, right? Of knowing the future, is because it's something that go against our freedom, our free will. And that's why God, the Spirit say that God willed it to be this way. This way means not knowing our future, because in that case, each one of us may contribute to the accomplish of things, even those that we would like to avoid. Right? So this is something about the God wisdom, in this case. But there is sometimes God allows the future to be revealed to us. The spirits say here, and but that in a particular situation, right? When the a particular foreseen event would facilitate the accomplishment of things instead of preventing them. So, in that case, God would allow the future to be reviewed, right? So, it's something that we are, let's say that we are planning to do something good, and then but don't we don't know much how to reach that, right? So, what is the obstacle that we can find it, we'll be facing to reach that good thing, good intent that we have. Then in that case, some part of these obstacles will, could be revealed to us just to facilitate that we have those good intent accomplished. So in this situation, we could have a few part of the future revealed to us, right? And the spirits say also that God knows. This is another interesting situation here, because people, one can say, well, but you are talking about free will, right? But I don't know. Well, if I face a situation that I have to choose between good and evil, right? So at this moment, I do not say which way I'm going to choose, right? But God knows in advance what we are going to do. But if God knows what we are going to do, then what is the meaning of a free will, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like we think that we are choosing, but God knows in anticipation what we are going to choose. So in that situation, why is the need of the trial, right? So this kind of choice that we must decide. So then the spirit is answer to Kardec, right? Allan Kardec made such question to the spirit, and then they said, well, the purpose of the trial is not to enlighten God about the merit of the people, but to leave them or leave us the responsibility for our conduct. So it means that that trial, although God can know in advance what we are going, if we are going, for example, to overcome or not a trial, um, for us, we have the merit anyway, right? For overcoming that trial, for example, that will be a merit that we have, even knowing that God would be uh, have the knowledge of that in anticipation. So, so that's the spirit. That's why the spirit explained that such a kind of a test and trial, in this example, aims to put us before the temptation of evil and leaving us all the merit for resisting it. So if we resist in such a temptation of evil, for example, then that will be meritorious for us, regardless of God knowing if we would resist it or not, right? So that's the explanation here. It's a little bit complex here, the situation, but it's how the spirit is explained, right? The issue of the foreknowledge of the future by God. So that's what we have today to talk about the law of progress and the law of freedom, so second part. So then the next month, October 17th, we are going to see the last part, or the part three, which we are going to see the law of equality, law of justice, love and charity, and probably the moral perfection also. Okay, so thank you for having me here today, and I'm open now for any question and observation you may have. Stephen.
Okay, my friends. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. These parts of trials. Why trial? Why did God allow trials? It's great.
Yeah.
Huh?
Trials and expiations.
Yeah, why? Why? I'm so good. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm an easygoing person. Why I need to go to their trials?
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the interesting thing because then the people say, well, but if everything has a cause. If the cause is not in the present life, is in the former life. But I don't remember what I did in my former
Yeah, I
life.
guarantee no. This is
Uh,
not part of me. This is not part of
yeah,
myself. No, this
yeah.
is
So then we have the issue of why we forget in our past, right? It, it's better that we forget than that if we remember. So this is a very interesting situation.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me see if you have any questions here. No, there is no questions so far. Oh,
I think there is no question.
yeah,
I,
no questions so far. Yeah.
I hope everything was clear.
Well, either everybody understood you did a well done job,
Yeah,
or they didn't understand anything.
I, I, I hope it's the first option.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm pretty sure. No, no, it's very well summarized. And sorry, excuse me, my coffee.
No.
So, and it's important. This moral loss is important because many of the questions we have today,
Mm,
the answer is there.
mm,
Even though you don't agree with the answer, but it's there. So we need to rely. Uh, we need to rely on ourselves.
mm,
And make things going better for us. So
mm.
Pachi Oliveira said a lot of to think about. Yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly what I was saying, Pachi. It's we need to think.
yeah,
And every day you will find something different. You will find something you need to work. You need to be more resilient. You need to fix fix yourself.
mm,
So we needed to fix ourselves. We
mm,
needed to. We are here to improve,
mm, mm.
and let's use know thyself. Know yourself.
Yeah. Then we always have our free will. Huh? So free will is something which is making the difference for all as humans, right? Because that's something that everything that happens to our life, it's up to us. It's up to the choice that we make. So
Mhm.
there is
Yeah,
no other way, right? So it's something that
yes,
we will, through free will, we will advance. Through free will, we will progress. There is no other way. And we must take responsibility for our lives. So that's something that spiritism brings about to think about, like Pat says here, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yes,
it means that when I'm reminded here an expression of Raul Teixeira is one of great the orators, right? So from spiritist orators. He said once that spiritism is not to it's not something that you how I could say uh, I would say in Portuguese, espiritismo não é algo que você escolhe, é algo que você suporta, né? Então, spiritism is not something that
To choose.
you choose, but it's something that you can well you take your responsibility, right? In some way, and then that the base of that is free will, right? So the freedom of thought, like Van is saying here.
Yeah. Uh, I I would say spiritism is not theory,
Mm,
it's living. We
mm,
need to live spiritism. We
yeah,
need to be spiritist
yeah,
inside the spirit center and outside the spirit center.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
because it's easy to be spiritist when we are the spirit center. We are very
yeah,
calm, very patient, very nice, very no, this is great, thank you. No, but
mm,
when you are out of the spirit center, I don't know, you deal with your colleagues in the work with no patience,
mm,
very rude,
mm,
very rude at home. You know, so we need to leave spiritism, and leave spiritism is be spiritist 100% of our time,
mm,
not just in some moments.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. Living by example, right?
Yes, yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
But some way, as Lou remember here, reminds here, uh, spiritism will be a common belief, because the day we all know that, for example, if I do something evil, we have a consequence, evil consequence to myself, then I will act differently in our present, right? So, uh, and then when we have the idea of reincarnation, the law of cause and effect, and then we will think differently.
yeah,
Selfishness, materialism will not be predominant on earth anymore. Right?
yes, yes. Okay, my friend, our time is up. We don't have questions, we just have
In some comments.
people agreeing with us. Like Luvium said, I like the statement that spiritism will become a common life. That's we just said it here, Lu. Uh, we we know we are progressing
Mm,
when we are more in the spiritist mood, in the spiritist scenario than
mm,
outside of the spiritist scenario.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when we are more in that phase, it
Mm,
means okay, I am evolving.
mm,
So I am moving forward.
mm, mm,
So Vani also said, I like about freedom of thought. Yes, we are free to do whatever we want. It's like a
yeah,
mom.
yeah.
Is a mother love. When your son say, I will do it, you know it's not going to work. You know this is a bad idea.
Mm,
But regardless of what you're saying, he or she has the opinion and they will do it.
mm,
And whatever was the result, you are there to support them.
yeah, yeah. When we understand that, then we act differently.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
we'll get there. It will take some time, but we all will get there.
Yeah, it will take some long time, but we will there.
Some centuries,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
what is some centuries in the infinite life, right? It's
Yeah, it's
nothing.
nothing, like tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, Roberto, can I ask you to do our final prayer, please?
Yes, sure. Okay, so thank you all for being with us today, and then let's end our meeting by thanking all the spiritual benefactors for all the support they gave us during this lecture, let's say, this presentation. And ask them to keep helping us in our work in the spiritism, in the presentation of the spiritism principles in order to get a better world. And then finally, we want to thank Jesus for this additional opportunity to be together here, and to our Heavenly Father, God, by the opportunity of this life. So be it.
Amen. So once again, thank you, Roberto. I'll see you now in October. Thank you,
So,
everyone who joined us, who share your thoughts. Vanya, you speak English, my dear. You understood what we said here. You also put your comments, so you do speak English, my dear. Glad to
don't
see.
don't speak about the right very well.
Exactly, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, guys. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you uh, uh, um, next Thursday. Also, I invite everyone. In 15 minutes, we will start our our virtual healing. Just go to Spiritism Ireland YouTube page, and 8:30 we do have our virtual healing. So everybody's more than welcome to join the our healing team. Okay. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, Roberto, once again. See
Thank
you
you.
all. Thank you. Bye bye.
Goodbye.